8 types of bees in New York City, just New York City. So we're talking about pollinator decline, and that includes butterflies, bees, wasps, birds, other creatures that pollinate. The honeybees are really doing okay compared to many of the apis, of the other bees in the country that are losing natural habitat. These bees are cultivated and are bred specifically to pollinate the food that we eat. So from almonds all the way to zucchini, honeybees are completely necessary to produce what's on your plate, at least a third up to half of it. And if you want to include alfalfa and other foods that are used to feed animals, then the percentage gets much higher. And I think you would need to do that. So honeybees are in danger more from big farming, since I can't come up with my 50-cent word right now. Big agro, okay? From the man who's out there putting his hand on your plate. So if you think of almonds as an example, there are 2 million acres plus of almonds that are grown in California. The pollination time is February and March. Now almonds are sucking California dry, all the water that's required to produce them and to grow them. So there's that. But the fact that half of all of the beehives in this country, that's over 2 million beehives of the 4 million, are schlepped on flatbed trucks to California in early February, stay there for 6 weeks, and then those bees are put onto a monocrop like almonds. I'm not almond bashing, I like my almonds, but I'm just telling you how it is. They are there for 6 weeks eating only one kind of nectar. So they're getting one little piece of food and not a good nutritious diet. Now that matters because if we were to eat kale, we congratulate each other on having had a healthy meal. But if you ate only kale for 6 weeks, you wouldn't die. You would lose some of your health. And then those bees after 6 weeks are put onto another truck and are moved to another farm where there's another monocrop. Now, on the ride, they're all sharing diseases with each other. That's just how it goes. Like a kid in the classroom, or that one person in the office who touches the doorknob and the water cooler and whatever. So things spread with the bees too. Then those bees may be placed onto a genetically modified seed, or the plant of a genetically modified seed that has a systemic poison inside of it that is designed to attack the central nervous system of insects. And then there is a spray of a neonicotinoid or an imidacloprid or some other kind of poison. So you've got a malnourished, diseased bee on a plant made to repel it, covered in poison. And there you see it's not really such a surprise the bees are supposedly disappearing. It's just by design, almost. So there are a lot of diseases, really 7 diseases that negatively impact the honeybee. I'm going to talk to you about the one that's running rampant in these hives and all hives in New York City right now. And it's called Varroa mite. Its Latin name is Varroa destructor. And it came to this country in the 1980s. I come from a family of beekeepers. We've kept bees since the 1800s. And I remember in my childhood, before Varroa mite, that things were different. And this is not like a Trump story like in the old days. No, this is a real story. This is based in reality, where things really were better for beekeeping before the Varroa mite arrived in the 80s. Like before Hannah was a glimmer in anyone's eye, the bees had very few relative problems. They had wax moth and tracheal mites and other things, but nothing that would decimate a hive like the Varroa. So the Varroa came to this country in the 80s. It came from Indonesia, and it has spread everywhere. And now it's almost everywhere in the world. The only places left without it are Iceland and a little piece of Australia. Everywhere else in the world has got the Varroa mite that has bees now. So varroa mite it's a parasite. They go into the cell where the egg has been laid, and when it's in the pupa or the larva stage, the varroa mother, the pregnant mother, lays her eggs in the cell. Then the bees cap it over. Then the varroa are trapped with the larva, but that's fine with them because then nobody bothers them, and they just feast on the body of the gestating bee, honeybee. And so then that bee is born, be it 21 days for a female or 24 for a female. Days, reverse that. 21 for a female, 24 for male. Days later, and they are already afflicted with the varroa mite. Now, the varroa mite, if it were to be on a human body, would be about the size of a basketball stuck to the body. So they're huge for the bees. So they're very hard to get rid of, because we as beekeepers, how do we get rid of that without hurting the bee? And that's a tough one. And there have been a lot of people trying very hard to do it. Whoever does it will make a lot of money, to be honest. Oxalic acid is one way that works to mitigate the mites, but it doesn't eliminate them entirely. So right now, all of the hives in New York City are riddled with varroa mite, and most of the Northeast. It's not just here. And it's difficult because bees fly for 3 miles in every direction. And because they fly for 3 miles in every direction, and because those drones are usually left unchecked to go from hive to hive, they will share disease. So let's say we got a hive that had no varroa. We just brought it from Iceland and plopped it down in Bryant Park, and we were so chuffed that we had this nice clean hive without varroa. It would have varroa within a couple of days, because generally speaking, the drones that come to visit are not refused entry by the worker bees who guard, this being the exception now that it's September. They're not refused entry because they're unable to feed themselves, they're unable to sting, they're unable to cause a ruckus. So it doesn't matter if they go in, but they're carrying with them disease that goes unnoticed, and the disease spreads throughout the hive. So it's a problem, and there's no silver bullet to that problem. So what will happen now is we will treat them for varroa, and we'll hope that we'll get the numbers down low enough that the hive will get through the winter, and we'll hope that they have enough honey, that the hive is strong enough, meaning heavy enough and strong enough population. And then we hope for other things. If we go into a winter gradually and we have a cold winter and we come out of it, that'll be great, because the bees know how to handle that. In the winter, they cluster together. Like you've seen in documentaries probably how penguins cluster together and they rotate to share the warmth. The bees do something very much like that, with the difference being there's a queen right in the middle of the cluster of bees. And they're sort of in a sphere instead of just, on the iceberg or whatever. So the bees do that. Now, what happens sometimes is in December, it's cold. January, it's cold.